Welcome, everyone, to the Shopify Open training. This week, we'll be covering Shopify SEO and GEO for AI optimizations. So for today's agenda, we're going to go through GEO and what is GEO and some of the best practices and what you can do to make sure you're doing the best practice for any of the AI engines on your store, plus a little tip on how you can optimize your SEO, because those two, the GEO and the SEO, work well together. So what is GEO? GEO is short for Generative Engine Optimization, or, more simply put, creating answers to provide AI engines that lead back to your site. It's like this example here where you just basically Google, this is the Google AI. You just Google something like, what's the best lotion for my skin? That AI response is going to crawl the internet and hopefully hit your site to pull back your rankings. So it's a practice of structuring your content so AI systems can understand it, it can trust it, and recommend your brand in their generated answers. So we've kind of switched from this, instead of browsing, it's more the we'd ask AI responds with an answer. And it's going to fill that answer with whatever it can pull back, much smarter kind of browsing on the internet. So where this kind of differs from SEO, their main problem is they rank pages there where keywords matter, backlinks, where GEO it's more of a generated answers, and where the context and the quality of your content are what's really going to help you up your game on it. And GEO doesn't replace SEO, it sits on top of it. So if your SEO is weak, the GEO is actually going to fail.
So, Justin, is it safe to say you really got to think about both things at once, really, huh?
It is. It's a dual game. So one begets the other. SEO is going to get you the visibility, where GEO is going to make sure you're actually in there. So you need the SEO to get GEO to be able to see you. And with the GEO is kind of built on three pillars. So clarity. Can AI understand what you sell? The authority is this the credible source and the consistent content of your site? Is this, the product that it can rely on to put in its answers? And then, of course, structure. Structure is a big one. It is a machine. It will read your site, and it's looking for a consistent structure of how you're structuring your content on your site. So let's start with the three pillars. So starting with clarity. We need to be able to answer those questions, and we need to answer the questions directly. AI prefers clear, factual statements. For example, here's kind of a bad example. Our premium hydration solutions, it's kind of a tactic that was previously used with SEO, is to kind of flood a lot of the keywords into your explanations and your content, to try to target as many keywords as possible, where you kind of need to shift while still focusing on the SEO, but being a lot more direct with your answer. Like the good example, electrolyte powder helps prevent dehydration by replacing sodium. It's a much more direct answer of what your product is going to solve for your customers. So being able to be as clear as possible about what your product is, what it does, what solution is it going to provide your customers is going to be key. That is not only going to help the AI engines who crawling your site to pull back your content for its answers, but it's also going to really help your customers when they land on your site to fully understand the product that you're selling and see the benefit in it.
So, Justin, are you saying we should put these in our product descriptions, or we should put them on pages? Where do we actually put these answers?
You put them everywhere. So if you're writing the description for your product, just to be as clear as possible about what that product is, instead of being obscure. A lot of things we will jump into some of the tactics with products in the AI, but basically everywhere. about the FAQ pages on your sites, the homepage when you're describing new products, anywhere that is possible, being direct with the answer of basically the collections. What is that the main collections, to be very descriptive and direct and raising everything, but just be clear with everything you're writing across your site. You're going to want to basically be bulking up that clarity across the site instead of kind of just focusing on product. Products are going to be huge. So being direct and adding additional content around the products is going to be beneficial. So in creating that authority, when you're creating that authority, you're really trying to build the trust not only for your customers, but for these AI engines. Being able to phrase things correctly, instead of just, one page about coffee, you're creating many different pages about coffee, best coffee for cold brew, how to grind coffee beans, putting instructions and ingredients within your product pages to help build that content around the concept or the product that you're selling, to help build that authority that when these AI engines are crawling your site, they're saying this person knows very thoroughly about their product, that we can trust them. They are the authority on the source.
So Justin, is this the kind of thing, like, for example, on Shopify where you can write blogs? Like, is this an example of where, like, writing a blog that says, hey, what's the best coffee for cold brew? So you're kind of answering that question in the blog. Is that kind of what you mean?
It's that. The blog engine is very helpful in creating a lot of additional content. So the depth of your knowledge and informing your customers about it. AI trusts depth, not just keywords. So this is something that we want to really build up, and we're both like, blogs are perfect because you really pack it full of information, and it helps, the idea of a blog post is people expect a lot of words, so they go there to read it. And products, you can slim that down, but still giving a lot of actual information about your products on those posts. So showing that you really know what you're talking about when you're selling your products. The next one is structure. Again, these are machines, so they love structure. They look at websites as basically the code. They're reading the code. So the way we kind of structure our content is going to be, structure is king. Using structure on your site, you have the basic kind of structure in the code, the bullet points, the headings, H1, H2, H3, the FAQs. There's an answer and a question, that kind of structure to it. The short paragraphs is being able to actually put that little bits of content throughout your site is basically what these things are going to be crawling, because it's going to look for basically that code within your site. So being able to add the proper structure to your site, making sure that, your page has an H1. It starts with the H1, and that it's successfully go through each one, that they're not out of order, and you're not mixing in content that shouldn't be in that kind of structure. You don't want an FAQ section to be question, answer, and obscure information that doesn't really belong there, and then back to question, answer. And then with the product schema, so add schema, product, FAQ, organization. These are all the different fields within Shopify that are all over settings and your product. We really want to be able to build these in to make sure that we're completing all the information that Shopify is going to put into these kind of code structures on our pages so that the AI engines can read it.
And Justin, is this an example of where if you're on an older theme, now's the time to upgrade, right? Because at one point, Shopify wasn't really including some of that structured code data. I know the newer themes have it, right? So is this an example of where somebody should really be looking at their theme and upgrading to some of these newer modern themes, where Shopify has taken some of the structure into account already?
Yes, definitely updating to kind of that new theme structure to be able to, more openly organize the information on your site with the JSON that's kind of coming through. That's, Shopify puts that in the theme. nobody wants to jump in there and, touch code. So definitely making sure that you're using an updated theme to basically get the most out of your Shopify storefront as possible.
Mm-hmm. And so, Justin, with the structured content, we have a great question here. Someone's asking, is this structure universal, right? For all the AI platforms, or does ChatGPT or Grok or all these different LLMs have a different structure that they're expecting?
They are all basically accepting the same structure because it's more, how websites are built and written. These are all basic SEO tactics too. So SEO, the way we handle the SEO with the H1, the H2, that basic structure of how, the old browsers were crawling our sites to do it is basically how GEO or the AI engines are looking at it the same way to know where the content should be within our websites.
And this is also where the old kind of standard schema.org structure is in place. So this is why we say some of the older theme or maybe a third-party theme, if they're not utilizing that standard schema.org. So for example, products have a very standard product structure where there's additional ID tags that have been put in place for things like this is where the title resides, this is where the description resides. The blogs have the same thing. This is the author, this is the description. So older themes or third-party themes, if they aren't thinking about that, then you won't have that in place. And like Justin said, you're going to have to start touching code, right? But if you've got one of the newer themes, or if you want to get in there and tackle it yourself, there is a specific structure that all AI engines use. Even SEO takes advantage of it. So that's part of that schema.org structure you want to make sure you've got in place, because GEO very much needs that to understand. Cool. That was a great question.
Excellent. Thank you. So now that we know the concept of these three pillars, how do we apply this to Shopify? So of course, the big one starting out first, products. How do we apply all this new knowledge to our products? Definitely with products, to give it the leg up with AI is, first off, unique titles and descriptions. You need to create the most unique title for your product, absolutely, because it is competing with basically every other product. You don't want to just say dry skin lotion. That's probably competing with thousands of other products on the internet. You want AI to pull yours back or to notice yours. So creating that unique title and the unique description to make it as personal to your product as possible so that it stands out in the crowd. And you need the clear product explanation. What is it? Who's it for? So organic snack bar is made from is, what it is. Be clear what it is and what you would kind of expect AI would pull back and explain it, help it explain it to the person asking the question. And who's it for? The best active individuals. So being kind of more prescriptive with your target audience on your products, so that, when that active individual is chatting with ChatGPT, that it's actually going to be like, oh, I got this. I know the perfect product for you. And then bullet points. The bullet point benefits, just label out all those things. Supports energy level, doing artificial ingredients, all those quick little facts that separate your product from everything else is going to be perfect addition content on your products. And then just either dropping that into your description or adding it into meta fields and placing it in the proper areas within your page. FAQs. FAQ is AI gold. Being able to have specific questions and answers on your page is going to help you with SEO. It's going to help you with GEO because it's used to be way back in the day, you had a question, go look it up. And then it eventually became, you had a question, go Google it. And now as you have a question, go ask ChatGPT. So people are constantly looking for the answer by asking questions, which is how we interact with AI today. It's just, we ask a question and we hope that AI is going to provide us the answer that leads back to your site so we can find the proper product.
Do you think that probably a good strategy, Justin, would be like when you're creating your product descriptions, almost think about the questions that people would ask about the product and then answer those questions in the description? Does this feel like that's a good tactic?
Well, it is, but you also need the question. So again, going back to that structure pillar or that schema, you need the question answer because that's what it's going to pull back so that it knows the question and it's getting the answer to it. So that if it gets asked that question, it has an answer ready to go.
So it sounds like you don't want to just throw in a bunch of answers. You want to put the question and the answer together in one slot. That's a good point. That's that's an important tactic to let everybody know. Don't just put a bunch of answers in there. Make sure you got the question and the answer together. We've got a couple of good questions here, Justin, on this topic. So someone is saying that if I'm focusing on improving my GEO, will that also benefit my SEO performance? Or are there separate strategies? And I think you're going to be talking about this anyways, but I think it's a great question to just answer.
Yes. So if you are doing that, they both kind of work together. So if you're doing the GEO, you're adding all this unique title, descriptions, content, all this additional content on your product is definitely going to help SEO. So one helps the other. And it's going to benefit SEO, and then SEO is of course going to benefit the GEO side of it. But you really kind of have to focus on both, where the AI engines they look less on the metadata that's on like the product, where SEO, that's their primary target. It's going to be that metadata. So you kind of got to do both at the same time.
And in terms of tactics, like Justin said, SEO is more keyword centric, right? So you're really trying to get the right keywords into it. Whereas GEO, your tactic, as we just said, is about answering questions, right? If you just put a bunch of bulleted keywords, that the LLM models and the GEO is going to say, well, I don't know what that is. So you have to be much more verbose. You've got to say, hey, this, like we're talking about the dry skin, this lotion is really good for dry skins. So you have to kind of answer it and say like what it solves. For keywords, for SEO, it doesn't care about that. It cares about lotion, dry skin, right? Sunblock. It's almost like a comma separated. So to answer your question, if you're thinking about tactics, they both work together, but think about one being more about words and one being more about answers. I think that's probably the most bottom line way that you can really break down the two. If we had to, give one word elevator pitches for each, it's like words versus answers, but they very much coexist. So that was definitely a great question. We have another question related to this, Justin, which is there such a thing as having too many bullet points, on your PDP, right? Is that going to be a problem, or is there kind of a sweet spot for this kind of thing?
I would, because you're playing the dance here. So, AI is going to scan your page in like milliseconds, super fast. So having a lot of content around it is going to be super helpful, but being that clarity, can you be clear with less bullet points? If you're adding like 20 to 30 bullet points, think about like, is a human ever going to read all of that? Or are they just going to be like, oh, now they're getting way over my head, it's too much, and I'm out. Where you can be super concise, you can take that 30 bullet points and get it like down to 10 or, kind of 7, that sweet spot of, what basic customer on your site is going to want to read. If you can be very clear with your content that way, it's going to be a lot better than just trying to add way too much. It's all about being very clear and having that clarity in the explanation of what your product can do.
Yeah, you still want humans to come to the site, right? If they just came to a page and it's got 100 bullet points, yeah, maybe the LLM can read it, but the human's just going to look at this and they're going to be overwhelmed. So I would say there is a sweet spot, and think about the short attention spans we all have these days. That might tell you how many bullet points someone's willing to read.
It's definitely a pretty unique dance we're kind of doing. You still have to cater to the humans. Customers, number one. But, the SEO, the GEO, that is all going to play into getting them there, getting them onto your site. And that's the last tactic here. So set catalog mapping. And this is the Shopify feature. Let me just jump over into my Shopify store. So the catalog mapping is the new way for a new feature from Shopify to make sure that you're structuring your product information correctly for the different AI models. So if you come down here into settings, open up settings, and then you're going to have to go into the sales channels. And then in the sales channels, you'll have this new banner here for the new product catalog structure. So if you go into preview products, it's going to pop up this nodal, and you're going to have your kind of standard source here from your Shopify products, and then what your source is for the information. So the basic one, title, descriptions, and the category that it's in. And then you also have the custom variant grouping. So you can actually start adding additional information to your product structure that's going to be put into this kind of catalog that the AI models are going to be pulling from.
And this catalog is definitely a big part of it, right? So, at the end of the day, if you've got a Shopify site and you're trying to integrate your GEO and integrate it into the AI with your LLMs, it's about products, right? You're really trying to sell, let's be honest, right? That's what it's all about. So going back to what Justin mentioned earlier about structure being really important for GEO, this is the core page. You got to start here. Make sure you're setting up the structure. And for products, the three most important things are the title, the description, and the category. So as long as you start getting this set up, now everything Justin just said about answering questions and having good titles are now going to be fed into the structure via this mapping here. So this is how it all works together. So get the mappings correct, then go in and answer those questions in the description, and then that will get fed via this mapping into the appropriate structure. So it's all connected. You got to do it all together. So Justin, here's another great question someone is asking. So when they're working within certain character limits, should the FAQs be placed into the description area, or should it be a different section on the PDP?
It is definitely a good way to kind of do it with a lot of the way these the front end of the site is built. It usually has like an FAQ section. So being able to place it in the FAQ section, depending on the theme that you're in, if it is semantically structured that way, to being able to place it in that, because again, it's looking at the code. So it's kind of looking for that answer or the question answer structure. So that's usually a whole separate section that needs to be placed on the product template. So utilizing the meta fields to kind of add that structure onto the template is going to be much more beneficial than just trying to place it in your description. But if you don't have access to FAQ section on your theme, definitely drop it into the description.
And luckily, the way these LLM models work, remember, these models are going out and kind of reading. Sometimes they've already read the sites, they've already scanned the sites and everything. So they are smart enough to know that if you have an FAQ section that's not in the description, it understands that FAQ is part of that PDP. It's part of that page. It's not going to look at some little block, an FAQ block, and go, well, where does this go? Where does this work? It understands context, right? That's, again, going back to what we talked about, keywords versus context. LLMs and these models are smart enough to know, this FAQ is part of this page. It's in context to this product. It's all together. So if you're answering that question anywhere on that page and leading them back to it, the models know, you're looking for this certain lotion. Here's these FAQs. This is the page of the lotion, that everything that goes along with it. So that's one good thing about the LLMs these days, is they're a lot smarter than just the keywords.
Yeah, they're very good at scanning a page like a human would scan a page. So the way we kind of think about it, on the admin side of Shopify, this whole different section, or it's still content on that page. So it's going to read it as this all belongs together.
So Justin, this page you're on now, right? This is an important thing, right? They should really start by going to here, right? Getting it mapped, and then start working on putting in the content into each of the products. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is basically going to, for the new Shopify agentic storefronts, this is kind of be that first stop to make sure that, you're feeding it the right information, and then go to your products, and then just, target all your products, start, with 5 week, and then start working your way through to kind of really enhance all that information.
And for those of you who've been kind of following the whole GEO and agentic model, Shopify does have a deal in place with like OpenAI, ChatGPT, to allow this type of integration, and they are expanding that model. So this catalog structure that you're setting up now is really key to that process. Just like kind of back in the day, you would set up your Google merchant feed, right? Because that's what feeds Google shopping. Your what's called your Shopify catalog. Almost think of that in the same kind of concept. You are now feeding those corresponding LLM models with structured data from your Shopify catalog. So that's why you want to make sure this is set up. That's going to feed that catalog. And now when people are asking those questions inside of all the different LLMs and the ChatGPTs and so on of the world, it will now know exactly what to respond. There's been a little bit of a subtle twist, recently, again, if you've been following it, where the different LLMs were going to allow in-app, we'll call it purchase. That is no longer going to be a thing. OpenAI has announced that they're no longer supporting that. So when one purchases something, they're no longer going to be purchasing it from within the ChatGPT, right? That was kind of the big thing about a month or two ago. You may have remembered that announcement. That's been changed. You can still purchase it, but they're now going to send you outside, back out to the Shopify store. So I think from ChatGPT's perspective, they're probably trying to kind of protect their app a little bit and not turn it into, just necessarily just a shopping engine per se. So for those of you kind of following the progress of this, you can still do the shopping, you can still do the recommendations. Purchasing now is now going to be routed outside of ChatGPT. So just an important little distinction, because that's something that comes up a lot when people ask about this process. Cool. All right. That answers that question.
Thanks. So with your products, it have all this additional, utilize the meta fields to create the additional content so that you can place it on your theme template, wherever it's, structurally should be.
Justin, on the product pages, right, a lot of people tend to use, like a drop shipper or like Fair or one of these other third-party services where they're really sending you bulk titles and bulk descriptions here. So based off what you're saying on this page here, it sounds like it's best for people using those dropship tools to, even though it's going to come in generically, they should update it and change it, right? Is that the tactic that you're recommending for people who have that kind of a dropship model?
Absolutely. Because if it's a lot of that kind of default titling, you're basically up against everyone else on that platform, just allowing that default title to be the same.
Okay. So that's
again, want to stand out. So change that.
All right. That's a good point. So anybody on the call now, right here, if you're doing drop shipping or Fair or one of those ones, that's an important one. So definitely we want to make sure that rises to the top in terms of tactics.
All right. So then on to collection pages. Collection pages, the best one to get to is the collection description. Most stores ignore this because they kind of want their collections to just be, here's a list of the products. This is where you can really utilize a huge opportunity is to add that description and then be very clear of kind of what that collection is, what kind of products, how those products are made, kind of that culmination of everything. Like all the hiking backpacks are designed for durability, comfort, weight, and distribution. So it's that full description of what that collection of products is, so that it's going to kind of pull back that whole product selection purpose back into the AI. If you're just like kind of looking for, a backpack that does this, instead of it trying to like nail down a specific product for you, it's gonna be like, oh, I know this, this great collection of products for you to choose. So being able to use that description and, again, utilizing meta fields on a collection to add that extra content around it. Do you have a little bit more specific of a collection where maybe FAQs that you get a lot of questions about the products in that collection that you can answer on a collection level to be able to add extra FAQs to your page? because AI is going to eat up any FAQs. And not too bad for SEO either.
And I think
you have the internal linking is another huge one, but collection page is nothing but links. So.
And Justin, I think this is a great one, right? Because if we think about how people ask questions these days, right? I mean, if you're on ChatGPT, someone may say, I'm going hiking next weekend. What's the lightest backpack that I can get? I mean, that's like a exact way I've seen people use ChatGPT. And if you are answering that question, like you just said, Justin, on your collection page, it can come back and say, hey, the Justin's Backpacks has a whole great array of super lightweight backpacks. Here's the link, right? I mean, that is a perfect example of question and answer and the LLM being able to send them right to this huge collection page. And that's exactly how people are interacting these days, right? They're not looking for keywords, right? They're it's very conversational, or I've got a really bad back, because I just had, people, give a lot of crazy context, right? I just had a back surgery and my back is really sore and I need a backpack that's really lightweight. Can you recommend some good ones? There you go. Perfect example of how people ask questions and they're looking for an answer. If you can answer that question with a big old collection of products, boom, you're going to get a lot of sales from that.
No, yeah. It is a very underutilized page within Shopify that you can really take advantage of. And again, SEO, these are usually the very SEO weak pages because we don't really put a lot of content on them. But we can start bolstering up the content on our collection pages to really help guide our customers towards the right product. And if you're in a store, like an actual brick and mortar, they'll be like, hey, where are your backpacks? They're going to be like, oh, hey, we have great backpacks over here. Or are you looking for some more hiking related backpacks over here where you're going to have those kind of departments? So if you think about it as like a department within a store, that how would you help guide the customer to the right department or the right rack of products? So the support pages. So these are going to be basically just support pages is everything beyond your main product pages. So again, being able to create those pages for the blog posts where you really dive into that information, like what's the best snack for hiking, how to choose a mountain bike helmet, being able to answer questions with a very verbose answer is basically what blogs are all for at this point. It's being able to give that very lengthy answer back to it, help your customers, and then, make sure you're linking back to those products and the FAQ pages. So actually having a full page to make sure that you're answering all those major questions that your customers are going to have that they can reference back to is all kind of content and goal to support in your support pages.
Justin, we have a great question here. Someone's asking that when they're optimizing those collections and descriptions, is it best to avoid keyword stuffing? And should you be prioritizing like natural words, high quality content, like an FAQ, or is it okay to stuff? I think we know the answer to that, but
it is definitely the balance. So the thing is what AI is going to be looking for is not other AI content. So we tend to get a little bit too, keyword stuffy. You want to be able to speak humanly, to speak clearly, to basically like you're describing this to an actual person. So if you can be unique enough that you're not just shoving keywords in there where they don't really belong or they don't really make sense, it's going to be a lot better to be, more, like humanistic about it, more clear, just, less sterile with, the keyword stuffing.
Because these LLM models are very natural language based, right? Not only are they trying to answer questions, right? When you go to ChatGPT and you say, hey, output something for me, it's trying its best to create natural language. So it knows how to detect poor natural language, right? So if your answers are always like, the super cheap blue backpack is the best super cheap blue backpack you can get when you need a super cheap blue looking backpack, that's not how one speaks. And the models are smart enough to detect that. So I would say as a general rule of thumb, I feel like you answered, your question in how you phrased it, which is, should you keyword stuff? No, you shouldn't even do it for SEO either. Like that has also been a bad SEO tactic for many, many years. So keyword stuffing you should just forget that entirely. It doesn't help with GEO. It doesn't help with SEO anymore either. The systems are way too smart. And even from an SEO perspective, they're using AI. The search engines are using AI to get better SEO as well. So they are already able to detect if you're stuffing in keywords and you're not doing natural language. So always use natural language. That is by far probably the best advice that we can give you moving forward to ensure you're getting good GEO on your site.
Yeah, even with keywords on the SEO one, you only need it once because it's going to register that it's there. And then if you have it like 15 times, it's not going to be like, ooh, 15 times, I'm going to jack this one up on a Google ranking. It's just going to be like, yeah, that keyword is there. And it's just comparing the other words to it. So you don't need to just shove them all in there, have a page that's just a list of words. So the SEO is still important because you need, before AI can recommend you, search engines need to understand you. So, SEO is still kind of a foundation of the visibility and still works deep within the GEO world. You're not replacing one with the other. It is still very much, they are tandem at this point. So you still need to focus on both. The product page organization, you're still going to need, the keyword focused product title, that's unique, product descriptions, that's structured content. This is all going to be information that is going to be laid out on the page that AI is going to be reading from. And then again, all text on images to explain what that image is, because any machine reading another machine it's not going to visually look at it. It's just going to read that description of it. Again, collection pages, boost that SEO, boost that GEO, add descriptions, add content, get that information on there, make it unique, target those keywords for SEO, target that meta description. And again, on Shopify, you have your meta description areas on products pages. They're all in here. If you just scroll all the way down to the bottom here, you have the search engine listing where this is going to be your main SEO information. So if you want to be more descriptive with your title here, by default, it's going to pull in the title of your page, collection, product into the meta title. If you're naming it correctly and uniquely, you shouldn't have a problem with this. But if it's, ends up being way too long and you need to match that character out to be a little bit more clear because the clear part's at the end and it's getting cut off, just come down here to this section and you can rename what that meta description is going to be, which is what the search engines are going to be looking for. So a lot of the other SEO tactics, internal linking, again, you have those blogs. Hopefully you're creating all those blogs, those question blogs with the full answers. You're actually linking that content back to your product. Whatever question you're answering, if you're answering some product questions, back to the products. Internal linking is a great tactic to do. If you have any support pages, definitely link them back to collection. You can link them to collections, set up a blog with recommended products on it. And then every kind of, products to related products, utilizing that search and discovery to get those products in there, linking them so back and forth. So it's not one way in, one way out. It's, one way in, many ways out. And then again, the metadata. Focus on that metadata, make sure the metadata is correct, make sure if you're creating a subpage that, doesn't really have any content in it, that you're adding that meta description. So if you're making a default page that the template in your theme has all the information on, still have to go back onto that page and make sure the meta description is in that page. If there's nothing in the description, then nothing's going to show up in that meta description. And then again, for general use, site speed, lightweight themes, not adding way too much to it. And this kind of falls into that clarity thing. So being very clear with the message you're trying to portray and not putting just excessive stuff around it. And a lot of, don't put a lot of third-party apps out there. It's like all these apps kind of do great things, but you need to kind of utilize what's going to be the best benefit for your store and just pick the best apps for it. Because all these third-party apps, they inject code, they slow down your site. And if your site's slow, it's not going to do well SEO-wise. And, for your actual customers, nobody wants to wait for a slow website to load. They're just going to bounce and buy products somewhere else. Get that blogging in there. Content, winter blogs, nights of blogs. Can't push this enough. Get blogs. That's the best way to get that unique custom content onto your site. And then, of course, social proof. Also great for SEO, great for AI, great for your customers want to know, like, there's other people using this. They think this product's great. They're more likely to trust that product. If other people like them are saying it's good, then, that's just an all-around conversion rate tactic to do. And then also with SEO, product ratings are a huge opportunity in the e-commerce they're in. Any questions on SEO?
Just a quick follow-up. So it is worth noting, as this person had mentioned in the questions, that agentic AI catalog mapping that we showed you is being rolled out to stores. So some people, like this person, you may still see a little coming soon, and so that's why you can't access it. And we have access to it here. So yes, if you see the coming soon banner, I don't know the timelines. We don't, they haven't told us, but it is slowly being rolled out. So expect it hopefully sometime soon to show up.
All right. So to sum up, SEO gets you discovered and GEO gets you recommended. So focusing on both, making sure your store is in tip-top shape for both of those is going to be huge. And then if you don't know where to begin, Sunrise Integration, we are always happy to help, and we will set your store for as much success as we can possibly get. You can sign up. We can help you optimize SEO, GEO, from anywhere of our 3 plans, from our support growth to our full plan of your enterprise. So being able to pick the right plan for you, that's going to help us help you make your store the best shape it can be. By helping you with your SEO, your GEO, any technical support we can provide you, and then giving you weekly reports on how your store is doing to make sure that we're increasing sales, increasing visits, sessions, and getting you the visibility that your products need to get purchased.
All right. That's it for this time. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all next week.